Well, hello and welcome to the Frustration Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Eadie.
And I'm your co-host, Warren Otter.
Thank you. And today we've got the Frustration Freedom Podcast, where Warren and I bring to you some of our friends in the industry and some experts to be able to overcome some of our frustrations to achieve freedom. And so today what we've got with us is a friend of mine, James Tuckerman, who is a B2B marketing expert. And so Warren and I have been talking a lot about COVID-19, economic COVID-19, and the potential cliff coming at the end of September. And we just felt that the conversation is potentially leading towards some kind of marketing activities to get the businesses humming again. So we thought there'd be none better than Mr. Tuckerman to bring along. So James, welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah. How's things been for you?
I'll tell you what, it has been a really interesting and an exciting time. We were already in the throes of reinventing, there's the camera, reinventing some parts of our business. And then this all happened. And then suddenly the reinvention began to happen a heck of a lot faster. The other thing as well too is that I got a couple different businesses. One is Anthill Magazine, which some people may have heard of, Anthill Online, been around for about 15 years. And that was forced to reinvent itself. We were forced to reinvent ourselves during the last big drama, which was the GFC.
Yeah.
Then we have this other business, which is...
So it's still around?
Online, definitely. It's still got a massive online community focused on startup culture, innovation, entrepreneurship. But as a print magazine, that ended in 2009 because that was the last big disruption. This time around, the major focus of the business is training, and we run the B2B School and B2B-.io, which is a technology platform. And part of that is B2B consulting. So it's been really interesting because we work closely with B2B business owners, and we might launch maybe 20 different campaigns in any given month. And we've just got to watch all this unfold and all the different things that have happened over the last couple of months.
So with some of those campaigns, what did you see happen, like during March and April?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one of the biggest things. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone, but a lot of big ticket sales. So if you're a business and you were selling a big ticket product or service, there was a lot of, hey, let's just put a pause on things. Let's just wait and see. I see Troy's giggling under his breath, but because it happened to everyone. Can we put a pause on things? Can we wait and see? That was the big ticket stuff, right? But the smaller ticket stuff, and we sell products ranging from $27 to $27,000, packages and products and programs. And the $27 ones, anything pretty much under $1,000 kind of exploded. Once we'd reframed it to match the times. So that was quite interesting, and it created a bunch of different lessons for our clients, particularly when it comes to getting meetings, keeping prospects on the hook, and keeping money coming in the door.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was talking to, we had Chris from Happy HR on here, and I was talking to him, and he was saying, he goes, this is last time it happened within consulting, everything just went to bite-sized chunks. Can I get this done, please, at this price? As much smaller ticket prices, but shorter timeframes to get them done.
Well, the Great Depression, I wrote a Facebook post about the Great Depression. Actually, I recycled a post. I recycled an article that I wrote in 2009, and then I've re-released it in 2020. But it was lessons from the Great Depression. And in the Great Depression, there was a bunch of industries that just exploded, and in a good way. And one of those was floristries. And you think that a floristry would be one of the least likely businesses to suddenly explode when everybody's tight on cash. But if you can't buy your girlfriend a $1,000 mink coat, why don't you buy her a $30 bunch of flowers instead?
Sure.
And it was the same of in terms of the way that we run our businesses and we operate our businesses. We can't invest in those big things, but we still enjoy that feeling of investing in ourselves and our businesses. So we go for that one, the smaller bite-sized chunk, and we still get that endorphin kick while we put those bigger ones on hold. So I don't know, like in terms of what you're doing, how could you transform your business into a florist? I don't know. What is the bit of your business which is the bouquet?
Yeah, well, so I think the key takeaway here is that if your business can take those bigger ticket price points and break them down, or even have, lower level products to start with, then start there.
Yeah, James, can I just cut in? It's Warren here. We had the same discussion over a number of weeks, and that is businesses looking at their skill set and working out what they can do alternatively. And we've heard some really open, active cases where people have switched from a jean manufacturer I heard in Collingwood who stopped manufacturing jeans, is now making face masks and gowns.
Yeah.
Now, that's just alternative products. But what are some examples from people that you know of that have created a small bite-sized product or transferred their skill set into other products or services? Yeah.
So one of the big things is that has come out of this is people saying things like, "Oh yeah, I can't get my future customers and clients to meet with me anymore." So I used to call them up on the phone. We used to have a chat, maybe a strategy call. They might call it a breakthrough session or a discovery call or whatever it is. One of the things that we've been working, particularly if you're selling knowledge, like knowledge and expertise. So you could be a consultant or a coach or anyone or a web developer, is that you might look at what you would do for any existing customer or client and you'd break it into the smaller chunks. So if you had a look at what you might do if you're a web developer, one of the first things that you'd probably do is you'd probably have some sort of like discovery call on the phone. Then after they agreed to go ahead, you might develop a scope. And then after the scope, you might have a one-day strategy session where you can pull together the bigger picture strategy. And you have a look at what it is that you already do and you break it down into tiny chunks. We call it chunking down, and we sometimes call it chunkotainment. And that's because we look at all the different things that we're doing. But one of the real standouts is, this is something that we've been teaching for a while, but we've just watched people particularly in the B2B space, embrace this and run with it, is taking something as boring as a sales call, what would be a traditional sales call, a discovery session or a breakthrough call. And you have people trying to get people on the phone all the time so they can introduce what it is that they do. But taking steps to transform that into a product. And that requires a really big mental shift. Because if you're selling knowledge or expertise, you've got into the habit of pursuing people so that they would have a phone call or a face-to-face meet with you so that you could sell your product or service. We've seen people shift that around where they've transformed that meeting into a product in ways that reframe it as a product, increase its perceived value, and then someone is buying that meeting the same way that they would buy the bunch of flowers. So instead of buying the $3,000 gig or the $30,000 gig, they might buy a $300 phone call. Very unusual, but I've seen it done again and again and again, particularly over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, within our networks, we have, accountants, lawyers, IT professionals,
manufacturers,
even mortgage brokers, some manufacturers. What would you say to some of them?
Well, okay, these are all industries where the modus operandi has always been go to people's houses, go meet them in coffee shops, go meet them in cafes, and sit down and talk to them about how you can help them. And that only really works if someone's obviously a hot lead, maybe they're a referral, preferably if they've come to you. So what we've been doing with a lot of the people that we work with is we've reframed it. And the best way to reframe it, and this is a bit of a formula. So if you're on the move or you're doing this in your car or at office or whatever, just try and remember this formula. If you've got an opportunity to write it down. But think about outcome plus thing. Outcome plus thing. So what outcome could you deliver to someone over a 45-minute phone call, right? That's the first thing, outcome. The next part is thing. And I'm just going to use language, all sorts of different language here. But a thing is like an audit or a strategy or an analysis or a planning session. So if you combine the outcome with the thing, you end up with a name. So for example, we started to run B2B funnel mapping audits. Like, what is that? We get someone on the phone and we map out their B2B funnel with them.
Yeah.
But B2B funnel mapping audit. So we've named the target audience, B2B. Funnel mapping is what we're going to do. That's the outcome. And the audit is the thing. And I've just seen people do that again and again. I had a guy I was working with last Thursday, and he's dealing with startups, technology startups. And once again, I'm like, what's the problem? What's the problems with the technology startups? He says, they're normally growing too fast, or they're not growing fast enough. Okay, what's most likely? Okay, well, most likely they're not growing fast enough, these technology startups. And I go, what's the language that they use? And he says, they're not getting enough traction. So it was a traction assessment and roadblock analysis call. And literally he changed that up. He put it on the homepage of his website. What day is it today? Today's Wednesday?
Wednesday.
He put it up on Monday and he got his first booking on Tuesday. He sent me a message. It was basically like, we've only had one proper visitor in those 24 hours because it's a small business. And he basically said one proper visitor, because it's probably been him and his wife and whatever, and staff visited the website. He said one proper visitor and they booked the call. He said 1 out of 1. 1 out of strategy call. But in that one, he didn't charge money, but he did give it away for free. And you can see the evolution. You can see the evolution. But you do something similar to this, don't you, Troy? In your business.
Yeah, we have bite-sized chunks. Yeah, definitely. My word tracks are normally, we like to take one step at a time before we take a small step before a big step. But I kind of inherited that from back in the day. But yeah, I think particularly in our industry, trust is such a major investment compared to time or money. So in order to develop that trust, it's got to be over multiple sittings, I guess. So that's happened there. But I think there's definitely room to even take on board some of the stuff you've been saying. Break up, even some of our services or products into more bite-sized chunks. I think that's a really interesting takeaway for me.
But I know as well too. Back to Troy. I know as well too. If someone wants to book half a day of your time, you will say, here's what you can do to book half a day of my time. You won't schlep across town and go meet them in a random coffee shop to try and close the deal.
It's really interesting because for me, I started this firm after the last mess within the economy. So the big change was to try and move people onto retainers. Like accounting firms, law firms, IT people, they were all billing hour for hour, dollar for dollar, whatever. And it was about helping them transition to more of a retainer based monthly subscription, and they just add to the subscriptions. But it's interesting. It's almost now we've had this another hit, and it's like, well, how do we go back to almost the reverse, going back to a different model to sell these smaller bite-sized chunks and get some results, but then potentially move to that retainer? But then I think that
comes later. I think that's definitely how it goes. So in March, we were running Facebook campaigns to get leads. Just, here's my ebook, put your details in, to get my ebook type of thing. And one of the things that we saw is, okay, once again, while the big ticket sales were dropping, the cost of lead acquisition was going way down. I think more people were on social media. More people were thinking about what they needed to do next, but they weren't confident enough to take action. When they were opting in to get that gift, we knew very well that our next goal was to try and sell them onto a product ranging somewhere between $27 and $1,000. And once again, if you're an accountant or a service professional, one of those industries that Troy was talking about, you can have a look at the way that you do what you do and break down the first bit into a small chunk. So it could be an analysis. It could be a way to find profit within a business. It could be a way to get rid of unnecessary overheads. It can be broken down into a standalone thing that can be sold for under $1,000, beginning with a phone call. There is a business, an accountant business, that offered me a $99 call about a month and a half back because I was looking for a solution to a very specific accounting problem. But what they know is that when someone signs up, someone might opt in for a gift, then they might buy a small product or book a meeting with you. Then that might lead to a slightly larger project. And when everything goes back to the new next normal, whatever that is, that's the point where people say, well, you know, these guys have been supporting me in their own way over the last couple of months. Who are we going to go with now to ramp up?
Yeah. So then this might be putting it on the spot here, but why not? So look, what Warren and I do a bit of work with manufacturers. So it could be the manufacturer of bollards, gates, steel bases that go into trucks, trusses, window manufacturers. Like these are some of the clients that we have. What would you say to some of them that are potentially, they've seen a slump in sales, but they're going okay and they're wanting to start ramping up to make sure that if there is a cliff, at least they've gone up to come back down? How would you approach that type of business?
That's a tough one as well too, because it comes down to the target audience. And the target audience is either going to be the business owner or it's going to be a middle manager somewhere within the organization. And all sales and marketing begins by understanding the target audience. I mean, like the three of us and most people on this call are masters of our own destiny. You know, we run our own businesses. And if someone presents us with a compelling proposition where we can save money, or we can make money, or we can propel ourselves and our businesses forward, we're going to come at that from a slightly different and hopefully preferably more rational point of view, even though rationality hasn't been something that's been in large supply recently. But if you're in that type of business, once again, you need to take a step back and go, who is the target audience and who is going to be the decision maker? Because once you know the target audience and the decision maker, you can get a better idea of where they're at and what they're doing in their lives right now. So in a manufacturing industry, and you gave me the example of bollards, just to give me something really obscure. I mean, there's some people on the call that probably don't know what a bollard is. You know, it's a
security bollards.
James, we deal with a lot of clients that make a lot of obscure things.
Well, you know, like there was talking about the ideal client. So in this situation, because Warren's been talking about this too, like, you know, with these types of businesses, it's, well, who is potentially buying in this environment? And then who could potentially buy? And, you know, there was a worry that there was going to be a rush on, you know, Coles and Woolies. And, you know, so who would they turn to? So we had the sales reps calling Coles and Woolies and making sure that they had bollards up out the front of their shops. You know, yeah. So it was a real opportunity to get in front of. And look, it turns out that, you know, the plazas, schools, you know, these have been good targets for them because of the current environment. But coming back to what you were saying, you know, who's the ideal client? Who's potentially buying right now? And then how do you get to them?
Well, I might flip around to another point that you just made there. So basically, you know, we're looking at what's happening and we're advising our clients and we're identifying trends. One of the big trends that we obviously identified is this idea of, like, you know, chunking things down and offering smaller parcels that lead up to something a little bit bigger, which is great for cash flow. But another trend, before I come back to the bollards business, is another trend is that we've been looking at, a really smart trend, is identifying, this is the way that we describe it, identifying the toilet paper in your industry. And when things change, everyone went a little bit crazy over the toilet paper, right? You know, they went a little bit wild.
I've done the same for bikes. Have you been to a bike shop?
Yeah, bikes. And we bought exercise trampoline because we've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and they're all locked in their house, 2 boys. So we bought an exercise bike, trampoline, you know, so they could just bounce all day. And they they watch television doing your homework, jumping all day. But it took about a week and a half to find one.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for yoga mats that are ordered online.
Yeah, Rebel, Kmart, the whole bit. But trampolines nowhere to be found. But anyway,
Yeah.
one of the things that we were suggesting to our audiences, and something that we did ourselves, was to identify the toilet paper in your industry. What are people going nuts over? So if you have a client that sells bollards, which for people who don't know is it's like a thing that sticks out of the ground that stops a car smashing through a shop window, or it's something on a pier that someone throws a rope over so that they can, keep their boat next to the pier. But so obviously in that instance, they went, what is the situation? What is the toilet paper in our industry? And they went, well, you know what? Supermarkets are probably going to need these bollards. In our industry, it was a lot of our clients, and this harks back to what we were talking before, a lot of people in the B2B space spend a lot of time in coffee shops and cafes meeting people face to face to try and convince them that they should buy their product or service. So one of our toilet paper was basically, we just started to help our clients book more phone calls, and then we taught them how to close on the phone. So we had one client who had never closed on the phone ever before, and she signed 3 clients at $9,000 a pop in March. And for her in her business, that was the biggest month that she'd ever had. We had another one, trying to work out whether I can mention them or not. Another business that would usually have 3-4 meetings before the client would close, and then they would sell them on a retainer product. So a monthly deal. We got them to change up their order, chunk it down, not asking for a big commitment up front. So just one sort of like project. And they were selling on the phone as well too. And they were closing, I think it was like 2 in 4. So 1 in 2. I would say 2 in 5. Because you've always got that nut bag that's never going to be a waste of time anyway. But yeah, and once again, they signed up a bunch of people first time, as early as the first call on a bunch of occasions. And that came from chunking it down. So, thinking about their business like they would as a florist in the Great Depression, but also focusing on the products and services that they would have that were the toilet paper.
Yeah.
The next bit, this is what you were talking about, back to the target audience. So can I have some more information, Warren, about these types of businesses and the types of target audiences that they'd be targeting?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because, as Troy was saying, he's given an example of a truss manufacturer. So a truss manufacturer, their target audience is a builder, but the end user is actually the homeowner who's actually having a home go up. So there's already a question on the question box about, when your consumer is not your target market is someone in between, and the demand's coming from somewhere else. And there's also engineering companies as well. Engineering companies who are actually making product if there's a breakdown, if there's a need, or if they can put it off. So there's a range of different things. Like the bollard's probably an example, but probably the truss one's a good one in regards to where the demand's coming from.
Yeah, I had someone on one of my calls the other day, and really struggling to identify the target audience. And she does leadership training, and she kept on going round and round in circles. And we got her on one of our hot seat calls, and basically it was, who's the decision maker? Who makes the decision and pays the bill? And she basically said it's the HR manager, which was completely different to the audiences that she was talking about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It was the HR manager. Now, the moment that we could think of the HR manager, we could go, okay, what's the audience mindset right now? So what's happening in the mind of that particular audience right now? And the HR manager is getting pulled from both angles, because the boss is basically saying, you need to get everyone working from home. And then at the other end, she's got, or he has got people, the HR manager, reaching out and basically saying things like, I can't get my Zoom to work, and how am I going to do that? So we had to look at the mindset of the decision maker, because they're the people that we want to get across. Over time, you can build up multiple audiences. We call them buckets. We can have one campaign for the end user. So basically, if she's in leadership training and she's targeting engineers, say, and someone's just come into a leadership role and they're very good on the tools, but they're not very good at leading people, she can target that audience and they can go to the HR manager and go, I need the leadership training. But if we want to get a result quickly, we target the decision maker. So once again, if we go back to construction, if it's the construction company, the building company, that's the decision maker.
Yeah.
And there is the homeowner. Another way to think about it, to really just, I don't know, dumbify it, is that we've had people that have created products for dogs and people have created products for kids. Now, when you create a product for dogs, you don't run ads targeting the dog.
Won't work.
Won't work. When you're running ads for kids, you run the ads to target the kids to basically get them to use their nag factor, but the messaging and whatever needs to be focused on the decision maker.
So I might just jump in there. So Terry, if you're still on the call, if you could just type into the Q&A who your end user and decision maker is, we might be able to get James to be a bit more specific. But James, I think I connect with what you're saying there. Like, another example that comes to mind is sometimes when you're working with architects or engineers, you might, like, an engineer might be quoting an architect, but then the builder or the homeowner is the end decision maker. But normally it's the architect that will, recommend the supplier. Like, here's your 3 quotes, but we highly recommend you go here. And in that situation, this is going back a few years now, when we analysed this, you could see that there was certain things that were very important to the architect. And if you targeted that and communicated that, they would heavily want to go with that engineer because of that and really push that case forward. So in conclusion, if you are targeting the end user and a decision maker, best to target the decision maker.
That's the interesting one, because every time it's going to be a little bit different. And sometimes you've got someone who is the decision maker. In that case, the engineer is the decision maker, even though someone else has to sign off on it. They decide. Yes.
It's like the truss manufacturer. The builder makes the decision, but the homeowner is paying for it.
Exactly. But every time, so every time we have this saying, we call it our monetization mantra, and it goes: one person, one problem, one product. I asked anyone who's able to write something down to write something down a little bit earlier, but that's another useful one. One person, one problem, one product. Because if you basically turn around and go, okay, the decision maker is the construction company, that's the one person. Then you quite literally go, what is the problem what are the problems that they're facing right now? And it might be projects have been put on hold, whatever it's going to be. That's the one person, that's the one problem. Then you can introduce your product if you want to get in front of them. And what you would be doing is you would be focusing on the solution to that particular headache. I gave the example of like booking a strategy call and turning it into a product. So if it's the construction company and everything is stopped, you could have a project re-kickstart strategy and planning call, right? Because that's the outcome that they want, and we've attached it to the thing. Of course, you need to use your personal creativity and business acumen to come up with how to deliver on that promise, but you will definitely get their attention.
So the key thing I get from that is, who is that particular person, decision maker, and what specifically are their challenges right now? Because that may have changed. And then just tailoring that little bite-sized product to them. So James, can you see the Q&A box there? So Terry's just mentioned that the decision maker is the HR director and the user is the middle managers.
Right, there we go. The decision maker is the HR director. So once again, you got to go, what's going on in the mind? What's the audience mindset at this particular time when you talk about an HR director? I had one of my clients go through one of my training programs a couple of years back, and they wrote a little bit of a little cheat sheet, a resource for HR managers, and it had a fantastic headline, and I'm going to share it with you. The headline was, "Run, it's the HR manager." That was the headline of this thing. And every HR person gets that, because basically the boss sees the HR manager, then basically goes, oh, they're going to corner me and make some demands. And the employee was like, run, it's the HR manager. They're going to drag me into a room and we're going to have a performance review or whatever it's going to be. So audience mindset for the HR manager is one thing to acknowledge we always talk about what are their headaches that they have before they know they need you. And one of the challenges that any HR person has, and this is actually common to any middle manager, is that they tend to feel underappreciated. It's a big word, underappreciated. And another way of phrasing that is, no one really understands what I do and the contribution that I add to this organization. So we're talking about what are the headaches that they have before they know they need you. That's basically HR managers. Middle managers, once again, when I say middle manager, I'm talking about not the boss, not the other person, but the person in the middle. Their big headache almost always, this is an evergreen headache, is being overlooked. So you're looking for keywords like that is overlooked. Then you have to think about what's happening in their world right now. If you want to grab their attention, what's happening in their world right now. So basically, this is an interesting one for middle managers generally. I'm about to get a little bit brutal. Are there lots of people who might be middle managers on the
go for you? Go for it. It's live. We definitely can't edit it.
We like brutal.
And I know that there's going to be a lot of business owners, and you're probably going to appreciate this. Is that the bigger an organization gets, the more meetings tend to happen. Now, there are very useful meetings to have, and I know that Troy has got a list of different meetings that every organization needs to have. But a bigger organization comes, you start to have meetings. Sometimes it feels almost for the sake of having meetings, right? And it gets ridiculous. I've got a friend that works at one of the big consultancy firms, and out of every day, she has 6 hours of meetings. And then she's got to get all the rest of her work done outside of those 6 hours worth of meetings. Ridiculous, right? Anyway.
You should. We'll sort them out.
Well, you know what I'm talking. This is one of the big ones. You know, one of the big consulting firms. You know, you'd know it if I said it. Yeah. Anyway, that are supposed to be teaching people how to be more efficient about how they do stuff. But we also know this about the big consulting firms. They don't respect their staff as much as they should. They work very hard.
You don't have to whisper that. I think we all know that.
Yeah, we all know it. But anyway. This is a mindset thing that's really interesting, is that there's a lot of people that are middle managers and they're used to spending quite a lot of time in meetings and basically nodding and providing feedback and whatever. And then suddenly they're working from home, right? And there still are some meetings, but the meetings are a lot shorter because everyone arrives on time and there's a lot less,
just on time.
Or just on time. This started with us all having a bit of a giggle because Warren was like, "I'm here." And it was start. but if you're looking at the recording, you'll know now why we all look so silly and like schoolboys at the beginning. But all these people are like have basically suddenly they're working from home, and they're maybe 30-40% more efficient in the sense that they're not having all this time taken up in meetings. And this is great if you're a business owner, but the middle manager mindset is, I thought that I was bringing value to this organization by sitting in all those meetings. Now, as the business owner, we don't see the world that way. We think that's ridiculous. But the middle manager is basically, basically they're finding themselves with more time and they're beginning to feel a little bit of self-doubt about the contribution that they're making. Don't know if I quite articulated that the way that it is, but they're going, I used to work 9 to 5, sometimes even longer, and I felt terribly busy and terribly important. And now I'm at home and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do and I'm getting it done in 4.5 hours.
Actually, James, it's Warren here. Can I just jump in on that?
Yeah.
I've been noticing with mid-tier clients that I've been talking to, and I only deal with the owners. I start with the owners. I've been hearing a lot of that. What are my middle managers actually doing? I don't think I need as many of them when we get back to so-called normal.
Yeah.
Because you're right. That's an interesting observation. It's changed. I think the issue may be, though, when it does get back to close to normal capacity, the business owners who are saying that we don't need them might just realise they need different style of managers that are a little bit more hands-on rather than just directional, because otherwise it's going to go back to the owner to be hands-on with everything. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad that you said that, and I'm glad that you acknowledged that, because as I was talking, I'm like going, I don't know if I'm getting this across. I don't know if I'm like articulating this the way that I am. I was coming at it from the employee's perspective. You were coming at it from the employer's perspective, and I think there you're right. There's an awakening happening, and the employer is basically saying, "Is this person as efficient as they thought that they were?" And the middle manager, the smart ones anyway, are beginning to feel a little bit of self-doubt, and are basically the part of their brain, they're feeling an internal pressure that I need to be contributing more. So when we talk about the audience, and we're talking about the audience mindset, and we got around here in a weird way because we were talking about HR managers, is that if you wanted to grab the attention of a middle manager right now, here's a simple question: are you a seat warmer or an outcome-driven agent of change? And I quickly wrote down the word seat warmer when you were talking, Warren, about the perception of the business owner. How busy are these people? Are you a seat warmer or an outcome-driven agent of change? And that there,
good stuff.
Moment cuts down to the audience mindset. Sorry, I cut someone off.
No, it's just me agreeing with you. I think it's great. Yeah, you're right. It's really interesting perspective, because I always see the fact that business owners want their middle managers to be seen to be active, and if they're not seen to be active, they question it. So you're pitching here to get the middle managers to step up and change their mindset to some extent.
Yeah, and if I bring this back to, the other elements that we were just talking about. So for example, if we're talking about breaking down our products and services into chunks, and an example of a product is someone booking time with you. Now, a middle manager is less likely to drop down some coin to book some time with you, but time is also valuable. Time is money, as they say, which means that there in its own way can be a product that is for free. The toilet paper or the demand thing that's happening in their world is that, if we're talking about things that are going to get them motivated and get them moving, we need to deep dive into the audience mindset at this particular time. So when I talked about the HR manager, I talked about some evergreen concepts. They never change. Run, it's the HR manager. That was from 5 years ago. Then we might have a look at what's happening now, and we are seeing this dynamic shift. So if you wanted to grab that audience's attention, you might say something like, are you a seat warmer HR manager or an outcome-driven agent of change within your organization? When this ends, how will your employers rate and evaluate your job, your progress, what you've been doing? And I don't know what language we're allowed to say here. I think we're all big boys and girls. If I'm the HR manager, I'm about to poo my pants. When I hear that, I would feel deeply concerned about my role, and I would be very likely to take action. And if your audience is the business owner, we go through the process again, and we go, okay, what is the headaches, the obstacles, the aspirations, the desires that's going through the business owner in your world right now? And you can look at every single one of them. One person, one problem, one product. You basically could go, I mentioned florists before. If your target audience is the florist, what's their headache? No foot traffic, right? So let's come up with a solution for that. And that could be a way to start.
What I really like about this direction is lately I've been beating the drum from my perspective in marketing, which is, sometimes that people don't focus enough on referrals. How are you getting referrals in time? But more specifically with this, referrals. If you do have a smaller, easier, bite-sized chunk, it's also much, much easier to refer. So, after that little piece of whatever, at the end of it, what are your word tracks to gauge how much value they got from it, and to see if anyone else do they know any other HR managers or something that might want to go through the same process. If you've got these smaller bite-sized chunks, hopefully you could then also ask for referrals at the end of that result, so to speak.
And at the front too, like the moment that the smaller that you can package up your stuff, the more likely that you could forge a more formal alliance referral relationship. We call them SMAPs, strategic marketing alliances and partnerships. So for example, a real small ask. So Troy says, hey, come on my webinar. I say, oh, mate, love to. Troy says, hey, can you tell your audience about it? Sure, love to, right? Didn't get to the chance to as much as I would have liked to, but anyway, we'll do it again another time. But there is a really easy ask for me to present something to my audience. Attend a webinar. When I talk about one person, one problem, one product, the product can be something as simple as an ebook, right? Or some sort of like resource. And if you share a common target audience, life gets easier. So Terry might have a target audience, which is the HR director. He creates his resource, which is how to manage the requirements of your business, how to do your job as an HR manager in a COVID world. Having said that, try and think of topics that are evergreen, that are going to be just as useful in 12 months' time as they are now. But basically, if Terry put that together, he might look around him and go, here are 3 other organizations that are all targeting HR managers. Can you delight your audiences with this helpful item of content? And if you've got a helpful item of content, can I delight my audiences with that? And then suddenly we have a strategic marketing alliance. It can also go, this bugs me, right? People reach out and they basically say, hey, James, can you send a message to your audience and invite them to book a strategy call with me? And I go, my audience don't know you. And what value are they going to get from the strategy call? Oh, I call it a discovery session. So you're going to get on the phone, you're going to have a talk for a while. You're going to extract every ounce of information from them as possible so you can sell them something? Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound very valuable from the perspective of my target audience. No. The people who are on my database, my network, and I want to delight them and I want to give them value. But if someone reaches out to me and says, listen, your target audience is this target audience, and I've put together, what was the one I said before? They say your target, you own Anthill magazine. You own Anthill magazine, which is made up of startups. And I've put together a traction accelerator strategy call. Would you be interested in sharing that with my audience? I'm more likely to say, yeah, that sounds like something that our audience can value, that would value. So that's what I'm going to offer, because you've chunked it down. Worst case scenario, people say, hey, can you think of anyone you could refer my way? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Give me something I can give them. So this is at the front and the back.
Yeah. Hey, like something I think because I was about to start directing the conversation around, where they can start to, if you've got your strategy in place, you've broken it down into bite-sized chunks, so to speak. Well, then how do you start getting that message out there? But what you've just said is, joint ventures or meeting with other people. So back on the truss manufacturer, something we've done just recently with the truss manufacturer and a scaffolder is we got the reps together, and we're also bringing a roofer into the mix. And so now they're all unified around the same ideal client, and then they're meeting on a fortnightly basis. It's their own private referral group. But like if people are listening, potentially it's, well, who's your ideal client right now? How can you break it down to a nice, easy, small step that's actually valuable in itself? And then who else is targeting similar people where you can get into, or maybe not a room, but maybe on a Zoom, on a fortnightly basis and work together?
Yes, strategic marketing alliances and partnerships. And the reason why we use that expression is that referral relationships tend to be ad hoc and inconsistent, right? So no one really quite knows what anyone's supposed to do. And someone says, oh yeah, we had a conversation with this guy, I'm going to put the person on. But if you've identified and isolated a target audience that you both have in common, and it's a very important first step. So for example, if I'm talking to a web developer and they say, can you refer me anyone that needs a website? I don't know who needs a website. I'm talking to Troy. I'm talking to Warren. I don't know if either of them need a website. Do either of you need a website?
Not today.
Not today.
Not whilst Rob's listening on the call.
Yeah. Rob's like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't touch my website.
I wouldn't know unless I asked or you told me. But we had someone go through one of our workshops and we said, who's your target audience? And they said, anyone who needs a website, typical web developer. And there was someone else in the room and we said, what do you do? This is a web developer. I said, who's your target audience? And this guy said, dentists, right? The funny thing is that half the room went, I know a dentist. Maybe I can refer you, right?
Yeah.
So I can't really refer, it's the difference between an audience and a need. And another tough one is people I say, who's your target audience? And they say purpose-driven entrepreneurs. Not an audience again, it's a mindset. I don't know who's a purpose. The guy that runs my local fish and chip shop might regard himself as a purpose-driven entrepreneur because his potato cakes are right? But yeah, so basically, knowing that target audience is when you want to do strategic marketing alliances and partnerships is great because then you might turn around.
You brought that up. I was just talking to Glenn the other day. You probably haven't seen him for a while, have you? When was the last time you saw Glenn?
Ages. Well, yeah.
His beard's still nice and thick. But look, he's working with an IT business at the moment. And, it's interesting, whether it's IT or whatever. And they were like, who's your ideal client? Well, professional service firms like accountants, architects, they all depend on their computers. They all depend on their IT. It's important. But then, Glenn was just saying, well, but who specifically? Because if you do say we do IT for accountants, then and then you do the James Tuckerman magic and have that first bite-sized chunk. So can you do that?
I'll tell you what, we worked with a guy called Stephen Burns, Mr. Tax Refund. And I remember talking to him about an ebook that he had, which was it was like 7 tax return boosters. And how many times have we been offered something which is 7 tax return boosters and we go, meh. And the suggestion I had was make it 7 tax return boosters for nurses, and then create another one, 7 tax return boosters for freelancers. Same book, 7 tax return boosters for teachers. And every single one of them was
in my experience, most people, they get too caught up in their operations versus marketing. So they might say, but James, you don't understand. We can do IT for anyone. And it's like, okay, I'm not saying you're not going to, but when we do a marketing campaign, let's pick one and target one, get it working, and then a second or third. That's if you need to.
That is absolute gold, guys and gals. If you're going to do marketing, focus on one audience, one bucket, we sometimes call them, which could be a segment within your audiences. And it's worthwhile doing. So for example, that IT company, the IT company servicing service providers, they could go back to their existing customer, list, and they could go, wow, we've done one law firm, one accounting firm, 4 architects, one this, one that, and basically go, okay, well, let's focus on architects. Yeah. Or they might look at it and go, well, we did 4 architects, but they're all a pain in the ass. However, the accounting firm was a delight to work with, paid their bills on time, and maybe that's the order that we want to go in. And we're not saying stop working with everybody else. What we're saying is, for the purposes of marketing, one person, one problem, one product, focus on nailing that, and you can identify others. The interesting thing about that web developer targeting dentists is that they said that their plan was after 6 months was to move on to osteos, or 12 months move on to hairdressers or something. I don't know.
Physios, you could just
whatever. But they never ran out of dentists.
Yeah, that's right.
Ran out of dentists, and every dentist wanted to work with a web developer that knows how to do websites for dentists.
Yeah.
What's even better about that is that the cost of servicing the job goes down because every project is the same. Yeah. So you can systematize it, and the amount that you can charge goes up because everybody wants to work.
The skills and training within your team is more refined. Do you remember working with Martin Gamble from GamCorp?
Oh yeah.
Like, so they're a structural engineering firm that specialized in solar, and they're just not running out of solar work. They've gone from an engineering company that did all things engineering, structural engineering, to specializing in solar, and they've done just really well throughout this whole period. So it's a real shining light to show the testament of being able to be very specific who you're targeting, and then and have it all the way through your entire process of your business.
And it's not easy, but it's worthwhile. And I'm going to say that because I've been teaching about going narrow. I've been pushing people to go narrow for at least 5-6 years now, maybe even 10. And however, until about 2-3 years ago, I was targeting anyone and everyone with a pulse myself. I couldn't do it myself. And then it was, I don't know, it was about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, I ran a workshop and I had 15 people in the room, and one of those, and five, one table with the people who were B2B, another table was complex sales, like a mortgage broker or an accountant, which is B2C, a B2C accountant. And the other one was like, you know, classic B2C, fast moving consumer goods, $9 umbrellas, that sort of stuff. And at the end of that day, I turned around to my business partners and I went, you know what? We're only doing B2B. We're not focusing on any other customer or client anymore. Complex sales, B2B, that's all we're doing. And it was a brilliant moment because suddenly people started to buy our products from all over the world with no marketing at all. Because they're basically like, I want to work with these guys because they're B2B sales and marketing, and I'm B2B. People coming buying products from Norway and Belarus. Like, you know,
it was also an attractive topic for us to have on this podcast.
Yeah, you go, I want to speak to someone on a, you know, like someone goes, I can talk about B2B today, and I'll be that guy.
Yeah. So just quickly, James, because we're starting to run out of time. So let's say they've picked their ideal client, they've identified the problem, they've created a small product, and now they're wanting to branch out to start getting some leads. What are some of the best sources, or what are some of the things you would recommend to start getting the message out there?
I'm glad that you asked that question. I thought we were going to go there a little bit earlier when we were talking about SMAPs and stuff. So that's cool.
You talk too much.
Yeah, no, I do. It's been a really long day, guys and gals. I had a webinar. No,
it's great, man.
I had a 90-minute webinar followed by 2 strategy calls with clients, followed by this. I've been sitting in this chair all day.
It's still entertaining, mate.
Anyway,
maybe we'll keep going till 7.
Knocking down double espressos. What I would say is that once again, it comes down to your audience. So when I talked about one person, one product, one problem, one person, one problem, one product, is that if you can name them, not only can other people more easily refer you, but you can find them. You can name them, you can find them, you can figure out their headaches. And when you can speak to their headaches, you're going to grab their attention. So once again, if I was walking through a busy, crowded mall and I yelled out, "Hey, you," no one turns around. But if I yell out, "Hey, Terry," who left a comment before. By the way, Terry at home right now just went like that, right? I said, "Hey, Troy," or "Hey, Warren." Yeah, immediately, you had that, you had that person's attention. So you got to be able to know your target audience. If you can name them, you'll grab their attention. If you can name them, you can find them. So when it comes to finding your audience, it comes down to the industry that you're in and what's most relevant to you. So for example, because I run the B2B School, B2B Dash, we've just launched B2B websites. We're about to create something called B2B Hub. We don't bother with tools like Instagram. Our audience are not using Instagram, so we're not bothering. So what I can do is I can run through some of the things that are working for us, but it will come down to different businesses, different things, for everyone. Sure. So the first, if you want to get a little bit of a bump, what I would first do is don't underestimate the network that's already under your nose. So most people are constantly thinking about new leads, new business, but they've already got a network under their nose. If you basically took all the emails in your newsletter, all the emails in your accounting system, Xero, MyMbob, past current clients, if you just went to Gmail or Outlook and exported your Gmail Outlook contacts into an Excel spreadsheet, if you just counted up the number of connections that you have on social media across all the different platforms, you probably look at it and you go, I got a pretty big network. A pretty big network. So the first thing
specifically, if you turned around to them and said, do you know, can you refer me to your accountant or your dentist, just to the people you already know or your existing clients?
Well, what we do is we teach something called network reactivation. And the first step is obviously consolidate all those different networks that you have. And we have a template where we send out a gift to our that's of specific high value to our audience. So, for example, if it's the HR manager, it's the ebook called Run, it's the HR manager, whatever it is. We have a line in there that says, what's this got to do with you? Well, if you're not an HR manager, you probably do know an HR manager. Can you please forward this email or share this post or whatever it's going to be? And we had a guy in Tasmania called Matt Richter, and he put together a list of 64 people, and he sent them a message via Gmail in the BCC column. So like really advanced, sophisticated email marketing here. And he had that line, what's this got to do with you if you are not this target audience? And we got a great testimonial from Matt. I flew to Tasmania and filmed it because it's such a good story. But he got 23, it was a brand new business, no customers, no clients, no nothing, starting cold. 23 clients, 2 strategic alliances, and a radio interview from sending out 60 emails in the BCC field. Right?
What?
So basically, we've got a network under our nose, and a lot of people just don't use it because they don't know how to use it. But if you know your target audience and you can create something of value for that target audience, go and introduce it to those particular audience. So that's called network reactivation, and that's universal. We had a company in New Zealand, a manufacturing, made me think of it before, and what they did is they put doors on freezers. That's their business, doors on freezers. And basically did exactly that, brought in about $40,000 worth of sales within a couple of weeks, doors on freezers. And that's because they had this big network that they'd never tapped into. So my wife has hacked my phone so that when she sends me an SMS, it makes noise. I can't make it go quiet. I don't know what she's done. She also knows where I go, tracks my movements. So if that Bing, I'm sorry about that, I can't make it stop. It's my wife, she hacked it. Anyway, that's network reactivation. The second one we mentioned before, strategic marketing alliances and partnerships. Once again, it's so much easier if you can chunk down what it is that you can do to create something of high perceived value to your target audience. You can say, promote me and try and tell your customers and clients to buy my stuff. There. Or it could be, can I help you delight your audiences? Here's something that I put together. So that's 2. Number 3 is what I'm going to say is that if you sell a complex product or service that requires a conversation face-to-face, don't underestimate the power of LinkedIn. LinkedIn's going through this crazy, I don't know, it's just a very engaged, active platform at the moment. Right. And you can really narrow down your target audiences. Troy, you were talking about like a construction crew, or was that you, Warren, that was talking about a construction crew, and they pulled together the staff and they began to talk about the target audiences that they could all target together? Both looking at
I was the truss manufacturer, the scaffolder, and the roofer. Yeah,
right. So basically, these guys and gals have all got staff. So we call this personalized demand generation. Every single one of those staff members can become a magnet for new leads and new business, right? So we're empowering our staff to generate customers and clients for us. Every single one of your staff has got a LinkedIn profile. They do. And all of those profiles can be engineered to attract customers and clients. Most LinkedIn profiles are engineered to repel customers and clients. They talk about the job that you had as a multimedia. I got a diploma in multimedia in 1991. I don't care. But basically, yeah, I would, straight off the bat, I would basically say network reactivation, followed by marketing alliances, followed by LinkedIn. And there's crazy exciting things. A lot of people go straight to Facebook. If you're willing to spend a minimum of $3,000 a month on ads, go nuts. Otherwise, those 3 platforms are 3 of my favorite right now.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, yeah, let's start to wrap up then. So any last words, Warren and James?
I've just got a quick question if I can, James, and I know you love a chat, so appreciate that. I've just got this real focus at the moment, and I really appreciate your comments about helping people expand their base and their sales and their network now. I've just got this concern about what's going to happen after the end of September when people run out of JobKeeper funds and a few other bits and pieces. Have you had, just in 1 or 2 quick sentences, have you had much feedback from your clients with the same concern about towards the end of the year?
Yeah, it's a concern, and you basically get people. Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like you've got the extreme pessimists, and that for them it's doom and gloom. But I suspect it's always going to be doom and gloom. And then you've got the people who are the extreme optimists, and they're talking about how they're going to respond and what they're going to do. One thing that I do like to remind people is that there is always the same amount of money on the planet. There is not less. There is always the same amount of money. It's just moving around.
I was going to say, some of it's not moving as quick as it was.
It's not moving as quick as it was, but it's still there, and it is moving around. And if you've identified a target audience that has an extreme problem and they're desperate for it, like someone in need of toilet paper, and they're willing to hoard. What I would say is that I'd be using the current time right now to fill your database with as many leads as possible, providing as much value as possible. Break down your business into bite-sized chunks so that you're continuing to bring in the money and the cash flow. In the month of March, we did $17,000 in $27 products, just in Australia. Like that just eclipses anything that would ever done anything like before. There are always there. So there are people with money wanting something to buy, and we need to change that to reflect the market. There are always going to be winners, and there are always going to be extreme losers. And if you're in one of those industries, which have been really smashed, I feel a lot of sympathy for you, but I also feel a lot of empathy for you. And that is because in the year 2008, early 2008, I was about to sell my business magazine for millions and millions of dollars. And I was in my early 30s. I built a business magazine from scratch. I bankrolled it, not millions and millions of dollars, but enough to buy a couple of houses and a boat. And in early 2008, I built this business magazine from scratch. Maybe some people on the call might remember it. Anthill Magazine. I won Best Small Publisher of the Year 2 years running. Magazine Launch of the Year, early 2008. We're talking to the News Limited, the all the other guys talking about buying our masthead. By October 2008, the GFC had hit. People pulling their money out of magazines. We lost $250,000 in the first week of October in future bookings. And by the end of the month, I think we tripled that. And by April 2009, we'd closed the print magazine forever. And at that time, it felt like there was absolutely no coming back. Since we're all friends, on my balance sheet, I owed $988,000. So it was $12,000 shy of $1 million. So I basically owed people $1 million, had no business, no revenue model, no way to make money. And I got myself out of that hole within about 3 years. And I'm running the types of businesses that I run now because of that extreme event. When I reinvented the business, it took me 3 years. Then the next business I launched, it took me about 30 days. And I think that this is what will happen. So if you're if you're in a bad industry where you've been hit real hard, as I said, I feel sympathy for you, but I also feel empathy for you. This too shall pass.
Good stuff.
Towards the end of the year, there might be some tough times, but there might not. But there will always be people with money, and there will always be people with demands that need to be filled.
What I'm hearing you say, and people should be thinking about this, is just reconsider, actually reinvent yourself if you need to, and be bold about it. This is not a time for sitting on the fence. This is not a time for saying, "Oh, let's wait and see."
this is a time for reaching out to people like Troy and Warren and my good self, and basically saying, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to get to. How do you think that's going to be possible? And sometimes big, bold decisions need to be made. But it's better that you're making the decision rather than the universe making that decision for you.
Good call. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Okay, so just a real quick wrap up. So I think the key takeaways I got: who's your ideal client? Who's potentially buying from you right now? What's a bite-sized something that you can communicate with and get them to purchase, whether it's time or money, with you right now that's of value? Reach into your existing networks. Start there. If LinkedIn is a place to be, according to James Tuckerman at the moment. And did I miss anything else, James?
I'm going through this myself, basically. Yeah. Think about the way to structure your products and services that tackle those headaches, the big headaches that your audience have right now. And it's not just about going, oh yeah, my audience need this. It's about, what is the audience mindset? What's going on? And we got really granular when we talked about middle managers. That's just one audience, but there's a lot of stuff going on in our heads right now, and it's a lot more meaningful to our audiences than whatever it is that we peddle. You can continue to sell vitamins that help businesses get stronger and healthier, right? Like a vitamin does, but there's no urgency attached to a vitamin. I'm already depleted in vitamin B because I've drunk too much of this today. But if I had a migraine or a headache, I'd be running out of here, wouldn't I? Right? I'd be doing something else. I'd be trying to solve that problem. Think about what is really the headache, the toilet paper.
The toilet paper. And that's how we'll end. Go get some toilet paper, everyone. Thank you very much for everyone listening. Thank you, James, for coming. And thank you for your presence, Warren. Legend.
Thanks very much.
You're next.
Appreciate it, James.
Bye.